And we welcome you into episode 1 of Sports and More with David Smith and me, Rick Watson. And we, David, the Hall of Famer, by the way, have been talking about doing something like this for 2 or 3 years now. We kept talking about it. We'd get excited. We thought we were getting close, and then life gets in the way. And so we kind of got pushed back. And now life has gotten out of the way enough to where here we are. And I'm very excited because every time that I work with David Smith, I always have a smile on my face, whether he's coming on the radio show with me, whether he's coming on the YouTube show with me, when I see him at a Radford game. And there is nobody, by the way, when we start breaking down football, whatever sport it may be, you're going to watch all these bozos on TV and you're going to go, they're not David Smith. Exactly. David, I'm happy to be with you, brother. It's about time we got this thing going, huh?
Hey, listen, I appreciate it, Rick. And those words are way too kind. Now I got to live up to them. So thanks for that already. But yeah, this kind of started, when I think about it, kind of unexpectedly. We were, if you recall, I think Darius Nichols had just got named head coach at Radford at the time. And it was one of those where you say, hey, feel like coming on the show and maybe just chat about the coaching transition and what you think about Radford basketball. And the state of that, at that particular time, we had just lost one of your guys, Mike Jones. He had taken a job at UNCG, and then Robert so wonderfully filled his position with Darius, which was such a great move. And so you were wanting me to come on and just kind of chat about it a little bit, but it was absolutely perfect timing because it was the week of the draft, the NFL draft. And so as we started the piece on your former radio show, we started to talk about, the Dolphins did this and this particular team did that. And you kind of looked at me like, man, you talking about this football. Yeah, football is kind of what I like to do a lot. I said basketball was one thing, but football kind of does the other. And so interestingly enough, one thing led to the other. And we started to do the piece on your former show, which we still do on your other show now. And so it just became a thing where I said, well, listen, if you have any interest in it, sure, I have interest in it. And from that, we started to also have conversation around basketball. We started to do some of the March Madness conversations. And so interestingly enough, it just one thing led to the other. And we about 2 years ago said we probably need more than the 15 or 20 minutes allotted to make this do better for us. And then with all that being the backdrop, we arrived at saying we probably need to do this. And now probably 2 or 3 years since we started to talk about it, we're sitting here now finally doing it because, we couldn't figure out the format. We were thinking, well, how do we do this? Do we do it at the radio station? I can get up there some days. Well, I've got games. Well, I've got life. I've got jobs. Right. And then all of a sudden, YouTube is sitting over there going, man, you don't have to be together.
Come here, guys. Come here.
Were you all watching COVID when things was going on during COVID?
There was enough called a Zoom, guys.
Big Zooms, which, by the way, did anybody hear of Zoom before COVID? No one. Zoom, Teams, all these platforms showed up and shows were going on from people's back rooms and basements and decks and everything else. And so out of all that, this arrived. And so we were more concerned about the format than whatever. And now here we are, hundreds of miles away from each other doing the show we talked about doing forever. And I couldn't be more thrilled to be able to do Sports and More, episode number 1 right here for us.
Episode 1 right here. Yeah, no doubt about it. Well, we got a lot of football to cover. And obviously a little bit later on, this week, I guess you can say it's next week. But, hey, it's the weekend coming up Thursday night. And then this weekend, the NFL gets underway. But college football coming out of week number 1. As of this recording, there's still one more game to go, and that's North Carolina and TCU, but in Bill Belichick's debut. But got to get your take on Virginia Tech. How was it going to look with the new coordinators? Defense, first drive, looked like, nothing's changed. Then they adjusted. But offensively, it never got into sync. And I guess I want to ask you specifically about Kyron Drones because he's 15 to 35. It's 43%. He did have some drops, but he made a lot of bad throws on open receivers. He's a redshirt senior. The feedback that I've gotten, the things that I've read, and I want to get your take. I mean, are we just starting to see that maybe starting to have to understand that this guy is just who he is at this point? I mean, after 4.5 years in college?
That would be incredibly frustrating if that's the case because there were times yesterday where he made wonderful throws. Up both sidelines, he made great throws to the Green Boys. I mean, the catches were immaculate and that kind of thing. And then there was the fourth quarter where he had guys that were open on critical situations. And Louis Riddick, who I trust as much as anybody when I listen to him speak about anything football, because Louis played in the NFL. He was an executive in the NFL. He breaks down the NFL draft. He knows players. and he couldn't even try to make sense out of it other than to say, you just got to step in and make those throws. There were 3 particular sequences down the stretch that were so critical. And then he had the critical drop as well. But of course, the play in the first quarter, I believe first quarter, second quarter, when they're driving and he throws that pass in the end zone that he should have just thrown in the 4th row to save it. Fortunately, his defense flipped it and gave him a safety, but that could have been 7. Instead, they got 2, so that's a 5-point swing. At worst, they would have gotten 3. And so one thing's for sure, the MVP yesterday may have been Virginia Tech's kicker because they've got him one. And so now he can do it. And so and so when I think about Drones, the decision making in that particular situation probably was his worst. Other than that, decision making I didn't find to be quite as bad, but that one was a bad one for a guy that's that way. But in listening to the reporting at the time, the sideline reporters, they talked about how Brett Pry got right back to him and said, get over it. And he apologized to the team, which is part of the humility that they're saying that this new version of him is. And so all those things are fine and well and good. But game on the line, quarterback at a Power 4 school, you've got to make those throws in those situations. And nobody knows that more than him. He knows it as well.
Right.
He even spoke to it after the game. We've got to be better. We've got to do more. And then as you start to think about the whole Virginia Tech thing, drive number 1 was an and then everything up until the 2 explosive plays. 80-yard punt return after Shane Beamer wonderfully asked to repunt, and then the punt was actually the old saying, outkick your coverage. That was exactly one of
those. Outkick the coverage. Yeah.
He outkicked the coverage. The receiving team wasn't close to it. Give the kicker credit. He nailed it. And then so that happened. And then down the stretch when South Carolina hadn't done a thing, throwing the ball over the top all day long, they baited us. I say us as a New River Valley fan. We lean Virginia Tech. And so they baited them and kept the run kind of in check. And then on the option read, he pulls it back and tosses over the top to a second team All-American sprinter. I found out as the game was going on, he runs a 10-10-100. And so he gets the TD. And so you really feel for Tech because here you go again. You're right there and can do it. You know you're capable. And I give that defense a lot of kudos yesterday.
Yeah.
They showed up and did work. I know I'm going off. You asked about drones, and now I'm going into the game.
No.
Rick, when I see that, I feel like Tech can say, okay, we weren't pushed around. We were toe-to-toe with them. And then when you start thinking about that, you feel like, all right, fine. But once the game is close, you don't want to just be okay. At that particular point, you're saying, all right, we're not here for okay. People didn't come all the way down here just for okay. We got to get one of these. And unfortunately, yesterday, they didn't get it. And another fourth quarter where 2 TDs pop up after keeping them in check other than the first drive. I'm sure Tech today is kicking themselves, realizing what they could be. But at the end of the day, there is a lot to build on, but it all starts with the quarterback. Quarterback's got to make plays. They did not get a TD yesterday. 3 field goals and a safety, 11 points. Who are you going to beat with 11 points? You're not going to beat anybody with 11 points. You're not. No, you're not. Now, in a weekend that did not have a lot of scoring in the big games.
No, it did
LSU
not.
game. Yeah, Clemson LSU 17-10 and Texas Ohio State 14-7. The under by a lot in that one, right? And so you had those games. Notre Dame last night in Miami 27-24. Miami wins that game. All those games are in the balance. Low scoring defenses, they often say, are ahead of offenses early in the season. And those were 3 games with ranked opponents against each other that looked more like NFL games than they did college games in terms of good teams playing good teams and the score being kind of low. So at the end of the day, though, back to Virginia Tech, they got Vanderbilt on a short week. And so now you've got to be resilient and go in there and handle your business because what you don't need now is an 0-2 start to get to a season that had so much promise and potential. You don't want to have that slip up.
And it feels like, as silly as it might be in week 2, I think the season's on the brink just in terms of, Vanderbilt's coming in. It's a Saturday night. Tech wins these games, right? Saturday night, Lane Stadium. I know Diego Pavia is a dynamic quarterback, and I know they had a breakthrough year last year. I think Tech's going to end up, I haven't seen it yet. I'm going to guess around 3-point, 2.5, 4-point favorite, something like that. Doesn't matter. But is it too early to say that, 0-2 with everything Tech fans experienced over the last 4, 5, 6 years and have the trouble that Brent Pry's had getting off to good starts, I mean, the whole diatribe is going to start again, especially if it's a close game. So I'm feeling like even though it's week 2 and it's a non-conference, I get it. Feels like they need to get the dub on Saturday.
Well, nobody knows it more than them. The schedule's been out here for a while, and they recognize the challenge that was presented to them on yesterday's game, and it showed up. And if we're thinking it, they're thinking it too. Of course, they're optimistic and feel they can get the win. And there's several takeaways from yesterday's game, though. The physicality that they were able to withstand in the game. They came out of the game pretty unscathed. I didn't see many people getting hurt.
No.
I feel like that for the first game, that's one of those things you're concerned about because you haven't played. The other thing is no one knows anything about anybody at this particular point. All the preseason stuff that you talk about, college football with all the changes, with the size of the rosters, how are you ever going to know who anyone is and what they can do and how they gel together? You don't. But it's fun to talk about because in the older days, you had returning players who had done it with the certain coaching staff, and you could say, all right, Oklahoma 1990, all right, we know what they're going to be because we've seen they're back with their whole offensive line, they're back with this and that and the other. Now you have no idea. Everyone's new largely.
Yeah.
Skill position guys are different. But as far as South Carolina goes, what Shane Beamer has done there was pretty solid, and I think that they probably were a little surprised that they couldn't do more offensively. Sellers is a nice quarterback, but I thought Tech had a great plan for him yesterday. Unfortunately, that run late in the game that they had him in the grasp, and he goes down the sideline, gets that first down, which really was critical. That's who he is. But again, as you start thinking about Tech, now you got a short week. You got a Vanderbilt team who beat you last year, and again, Diego's coming in, and he's dynamic, and so he's a problem too. For the second straight week, you're going to have an SEC dynamic quarterback. So I'm sure, again, Tech's they've got tape from last year. Shouldn't be a surprise. You feel like they're going to have a nice scheme. I thought the coordinators for Tech yesterday represented in a nice way. I thought offensively, receivers at Tech did a really nice job. The Green Boys did a really good job. And so I feel like 7:30 Saturday night at Virginia Tech, it's going to be lit. It's going to be on fire. Good luck coming in there and having any kind of energy if you're the visiting team. But a lot of times those, Rick, a lot of times the visiting team feeds off it too. And so
they do feed off of it. Yeah.
Rick, you played in high school like I did. And my wife's an athlete. We talk about it all the time. Something about going on the road too and shushing the crowd. Something about that. So Vanderbilt ain't afraid. Look at the places they play. I mean, Tech's one of the unique places. Yeah, it won't be that. It'll be football. That'll be what'll matter the most. And I'm optimistic of Tech's defense, particularly the way they performed yesterday. And a pretty pro SEC South Carolina crowd base, even though Tech represented well. I do agree with you though, Rick. 0-2 would be really, really rough to come back from, particularly as the back end of Virginia Tech schedule isn't very friendly. And so you really want to set this thing up to have a successful total season outside of the ACC. And Saturday night's win give them a great start on that.
It would. And to your point, I remember a couple of years ago, Miami's quarterback, I won't be able to think of his name, the kid before Cam Ward, he said when they came to Blacksburg, they were excited. They talked about it because they were talking about the atmosphere and how loud it was, and they liked Sandman and all that because they don't get that at home. Now they did against Notre Dame last night because that game was had all. But he said, you know what, we thrived on it. He goes, and to be honest, it's such a great playing surface. The field's in such great shape. After you get through the intro, and if you jump out on them, he goes, that crowd kind of goes away, and you're still enjoying that environment because you're off to a good start. And I thought about what he said. And sometimes they can backfire, right? So if you have all that, like you just said it, Pavia and those guys are going to thrive off of that, especially if they take the lead. How Tech can double down is if they can jump out like they used to do in these night games and get a lead and put the choke on them, and then it's over. But no, they haven't been able to do that. So I thought that was curious, and I wonder if that's going to be something that feeds a team like Vanderbilt as well, because also to your point, they walk in the Tuscaloosa, they walk in between the hedges down in Athens, down in LSU at the other Death Valley. Yeah. They don't go into Blacksburg and go, ooh.
No.
So they're conditioned. They're conditioned. So we'll see. But and I couldn't agree more. And this is something you and I brought this up on the radio show a couple of years ago, and Coach Beamer was the first one I ever heard say it. Had him on when I brought the show back 2020. 2021, he came back on the show because he used to be on the old show, the first version. And he talked about it then. And he reminded everybody He said, Rick, I still don't understand why we don't have preseason in college football.
100%.
And I hear more people talking about it than ever before. And I think that we had all these matchups, these certain matchups that were so strong. Scoring was off. Teams were making mistakes. And I'm thinking, this is like watching, and you and I are watching preseason football because that's how we're wired. Like when I was watching Broncos open up against the 49ers, this looks like a preseason game. Why can't college football, the people who run it, not understand if basketball has it and baseball and softball and volleyball and all these other sports across all of the NCAA can have warm-up games? You could make a lot of money if you sold out Lane Stadium. You could get JMU up here.
No question.
You could get Liberty up here. I don't care who. Play them in like an exhibition, controlled, however it may look. You'd get 40, 60,000 people up here, and your teams would be conditioned and ready to go. College football still doesn't do it, and I think that's why as we get through week one, I'm sitting here going, it was okay, you know?
Yes.
It's okay. It looked like preseason.
I agree with you so much. I believe, Rick, you probably would have had a better chance of gotten that done 15 years ago when everyone wasn't bubble wrapping their players. Now, I understand you get a quarterback in there and you get hurt, that you're kind of done. And I know in Virginia Tech's case, they're really, really nervous. I heard some folks on your main show talk about the fact that behind drones, there's more concern this year than before, even though they got Pop Watson, who did a nice job last year. But I believe, Rick, that if you had that, you probably still would only see some folks play, even if you did a controlled practice like the NFL does, where they get together and they do week-long, couple days practice before kids get to school. Hey, like you said, bring JMU down, have a little private workout. But I think people are so concerned now about things getting out. Can you imagine if you brought, say, Liberty over to Tech, and then word gets out, we were at the scrimmage and Liberty kind of handled it.
That's right.
Tech. You know, so you got that, you'd almost have to try to partner with somebody that's just, you'd almost have, don't you think? I think there would be some of that.
No, you're right.
Yeah. I think you almost have to partner up with somebody that's like you, that if, like, say, you're not playing Wake Forest in a year, say, you know what, you want to ride up interstate and let's just do a control practice kind of thing. Like men's basketball now, they have exhibitions. They have preseason exhibitions where you'll have a VCU will slide down to UVA and play, and they'll just play, and then whatever happens. They're just getting work in and that kind of thing. I would wonder if coaches are so concerned about, we mess around and get guys hurt. Well, again, football, there's only one way to get ready for football. That's to play it. And so I really feel like there's a way to do that. Football. But Rick, the other part is this. If you're not going to do that, then we're going to get this week one whateverness. And so now things are settling in, and I couldn't agree with you more, especially if Coach Beamer says it's good enough for me. I'd be interested to know, to your point, they're a great fundraising opportunity if you did it on some kind of way, particularly your depth players. You probably could do better suited if you could get players who you hadn't seen play, second teamers that might can get some reps against somebody else. I'd love to be able to see something like that. But to your point, you could get 40,000 at any stadium of any Power 4 school. You could control that thing, and I think
Dion money.
I think it. How about it, brother? I think it was Dion that was wanting to do something in spring. I think he was wanting to host a spring game and raise money for it. I think it was Syracuse. I think he was going to. I think that's what it was. I think he was going to get Syracuse to come out. Am I right about that? Yep. And
it was Syracuse because he's good friends. Yep.
And try to get that in as a similar kind of way to get it in. So, but as it stands right now, they don't seem that there's no appetite for it so far. But you're right, Rick. If it's good enough for the NFL to have exhibition games and preseason games to at least get teams up to speed, even though the starters don't play, it sure would seem like it would help put a better product on the field as long as players the main guys can stay away from injury. And I guess these days that's so paramount.
It is the first episode of the Sports and More podcast. We're very excited, myself and David Smith here. And as excited as we are about college football, there's nothing else that gets David and I going more. I think I can speak on his behalf than the National Football League. And here we are in week number one, or right before week number one. Yeah, I can't do Facenda. I mean, he's the greatest voice in the history of sports. It just let it go and just enjoy it for what it is. I wish you were still around, but
100%.
We're here, man. We've made it to week one. It's so exciting.
It is.
We've got Thursday and Friday games, but
Yep.
what is it about this time of year? You and I, you're a Dolphins lifer. I'm a Broncos lifer. It's been a while since either one of us have been, great anyway, but yet we're there every year with our team. And man, high school starts, college starts, and now here you go with the pros. This is the best time of year, my friend. You know that.
Well, it is. And we would like to thank every meteorologist who threw their hat in the ring to make the weather perfect. We had a hot summer. God bless those football players that had to start the summer with conditioning in July and first week of August, where it was the hottest we've had in forever. Since then, it has been incredibly fall-like weather. Like, it's really unbelievable to have been August, and this is being recorded on September 1st, but it's been ideal, Rick. You could smell it. Football has a smell. If you know, has a smell.
It does. You know. That's right.
And so last week here, the first games of the high school season are underway. Now that's kind of behind us and off and running. And as you know, September being here, September flies by. By the time September ends, 5 of the 10 high school football games will already be played. Like football, we wait on it forever. And in September, as long as September is, 5 games will be done. Season will be half over before we get to October 1st. It's crazy how it comes and then it goes so fast. But we're not going to worry about it because the NFL doesn't go fast. The NFL doesn't end until after Valentine's Day. So let that marinate for you.
That's right.
I'm pretty sure it's at or near Valentine's Day. And so for those of you that don't know, that's February. And so we're excited. And so it's a lot to look forward to in the NFL because the NFL is a gift that keeps on giving. There, even with all of its hiccups, with all the things it has, just like you and I were talking about last week offline, NIL and transfer portal can get folks feeling some kind of way about college athletics in May and June.
Right,
You just,
right.
oh gosh, he's leaving. How much is he asking for? But on Saturday, we'll go back to Thursday. When Thursday night hit and the games were on, didn't matter. There are no agents or checkbooks on the field. It still looks the same. The product's football. It's me against you. And so that was Thursday as we moved into the East Carolina NC State game, among others. Dion was on Friday night against Georgia Tech, and the full slate on Saturday, Florida State, Alabama. Yeesh. Had some of those games amongst the others we talked about. And Sunday, yesterday, we had the 2 games. Okay, and then today we got Belichick and TCU. But Thursday, step aside, young fellas. Big boys are in
That's right,
here.
you little guys.
Thanks for the we're the headliners, you know what I mean? And so you may be getting paid, but we're moving up in weight class as we open up the season with Dallas at Philly. What a way to start the season, just like Jerry Jones would want. Dallas at Philly, and not the Dallas team that we thought we would see on September 4th.
Yeah, it's like whoever used to open for James Brown, right? Hey, you guys were great, but here comes the Godfather of Soul on Thursday
100%.
night. Thank you so much, but here he comes. So just get out of the way, and here we are.
And not only did they get out the way, they would go back and say, and then turn to watch. They wouldn't just leave. They would step aside and go, oh, let's now. I'm going to stay. We ain't leaving.
We're not that.
We're not that. We're not that. So we're going to watch how it's done. And so, again, NFL, the gift that keeps on giving is so much. And Rick, no matter where you go or who you know, just about everybody has a rooting interest in some team. And that's what makes the NFL great. Everybody you know, moms, grandmas, great-grandmas, and fathers and dads and uncles, everybody's got a team. And so Thursday night, we get it launched off again. They've done it great. The Eagles will raise their banner and that kind of thing. And so it's always tricky, though, Rick, when you start to get into these banner-raising situations, because I think we saw the Chiefs lose to Detroit 2 years ago, I believe it was.
Right.
And then last year, Baltimore would have had him. I think it was one toe. Isaiah Likely in the end zone could have had that catch to tie that game. So the games are usually pretty competitive. And just like with college football, it's the first week. No one really knows how you're going to be. It's really a chance to see. And so that's why it matters so much that you win these games when you're not at your best, because they all add up. They all add up. If you don't believe that, ask the Baltimore Ravens last year when they lose in week 2 to the Raiders at home, being up 10, and Minshew beats them. Well, what does that mean week 2? It's still hot outside. But that's why the Ravens had to play the Buffalo Bills last year in the freezing cold on the road in a playoff game where Mark Andrews didn't make. I mean, again, it's cold everywhere in January, so it's not like it's much warmer in Baltimore. But Buffalo's colder than everywhere. And having that game at home could have made a big difference for Baltimore. I'm sure they would tell you that. But that loss to the Raiders was one of those games that add up against you. And you certainly don't want to have that when you can control the narrative when it's warm. Handle your business early in the season. That's why we'll be watching on this podcast and other platforms.
Well, and you and I had planned this. We're going to do this the way I guess we used to do the radio show. And we're going to start out, and we'll let you choose whichever conference you want. And what David does is he goes through the divisions. He goes through and makes his predictions, who's going to win the divisions and so forth. And then I'll follow up with mine. So your choice, you want to go NFC, the lesser league, since you and I are AFC guys, or do you want to go with the AFC? You're starting out for the first show.
Well, since we're the best, we'll go first. We will go first. And since the NFC just won the Super Bowl for the first time in a couple of years, we'll try to reclaim it through our own osmosis today. How about that?
There you go. Okay, that'll work. That'll work.
So we're going to start AFC East. Why? Because every time I see standings, AFC East is always at the top. Don't ask me why, but think about it. It always is. Always
regionality? Yeah, it is. You're right.
I mean, if you read, for those of you that still get a newspaper and read it, it's in there. It's at the top. So AFC East, and my Dolphins are in the AFC East. But as much as I love my Dolphins, we have not won a Super Bowl in 52 years, 1973. And so it's been forever and ever. But with that being said, it'd be a lot easier for me on this podcast to say, yep, it's going to be Miami's time. So this is my deal with the Dolphins. I'm always wanting them to win everything, but yet I'm a realist and realize that they probably won't. So there's my disclaimer. So the AFC East, I think it'd be ridiculous to not think that the Buffalo Bills are going to win that division. I've got them at the one spot, followed by, here's one for you, the New England Patriots. I really think the Mike Vrabel hiring is, to me, here's the deal. Everything that Bill Belichick was around organization and accountability to players
100%.
with a little less jerkness. You know what I mean? I think Vrabel.
Right.
Following?
Right.
Yeah. I think Vrabel brings in a more modernized Belichick. I think that the players can grab onto, and he still gets in drills with these guys. I'm told.
Yeah.
And so I got the Patriots at 2. I got the Dolphins at 3. And I got the Jets at 4. And the reason I got the Jets at 4 is I can't recall an offseason where I've heard less about the Jets than I've heard now. Like,
they just gone.
Right, Rick? It's been nothing. I haven't heard a thing about it. Justin Fields is starting at quarterback. We just don't know how it's going to go. He was 4-2 with the Steelers last year. 4-2 with the Steelers last year. And then they put Russ in again. Wasn't that he was horrible then, but he has yet to be. I mean, at Ohio State, he had some moments. We just don't know. But they certainly are all in on him at the Jets, Rick. And so I'm going to put them at 4. Their defense is going to be good. Aaron Glenn's going to get the culture right. There's no drama.
He was the right hire.
Yeah.
100%. 100%. Like, I love that hire of Aaron Glenn. He's just been waiting. He's been such a key part of the Lions. If they just leave him alone.
Yep.
He's going to be okay long term.
And not only is he the right hire, play for the Jets, so he gets it.
Right.
Yeah. And I think, I also think if you're dealing at the Jets, you're not just going to stroll in and be a Jets coach without understanding that city. You better understand it's different there. And I think they did right by hiring him, and he's going to be fine. The defensive side of the ball is not going to be a problem. So I really feel like I think they're going to be fine. I've got them at 4. And I'm sure a lot of that is me being a homer for the Dolphins, not dare trying to put them at the 4 spot. Talking about a make or break season. I mean, Mike McDaniel's done a nice job of having 2, but they play a certain kind of way, and they don't really come off as physical. They don't come off as being able to be tough enough in the cold. And so you're in the East. You're playing Buffalo, New England, the Jets. It's all Northeast and us, South Florida. And so you're going to have – I mean, so in December, the first thing I do when the schedule comes out every year is I go see where are we going in December, where are we going in January. It's always going to be one of the Northeast teams. And so you've got to be able to go up there and handle your business. And I'm a little concerned about them being able to do that. But saying that to say this, it would not be surprising if the Jets can make a little bit of a move just because their defense is so good. But we realize this might be the last ride for Mike McDaniel, Tua, Tyreek Hill. There's a lot going on there. We made the swap Jalen Ramsey. We made the swap with Pittsburgh. We got Minka Fitzpatrick back on the defensive side of the ball. You know, we lost a couple guys. We traded the tight end Smith also to Pittsburgh, which I really liked him a lot. So I'm a little concerned about them, but that's where I'm going in the AFC East. Buffalo, New England, Miami, and the Jets. So there's my 1 through 4.
I like it. I'm going to wait for Drake May to arrive. I'm going to put Miami, your Dolphins, ahead of New England. I'm going to go Buffalo, Miami, New England, and the Jets. Everything you said about Mike Vrabel's career, I agree. Is Drake May going to be able to take that jump? I'm always a little skeptical of sophomore quarterbacks, my own, when we get to the West, especially. Mm-hmm. So, except unless you're Jaden Daniels, I'm not worried about him. He's already a Hall of Famer. But
he's on his way.
Your point there, people don't think about enough. This is what the Dolphins have to deal with. What you said is so true. They have to go out of their element. They practice every day in the heat. They're in Miami, Florida. They get used to it. Then they have to go this cold weather. Well, these other teams get to go down to Miami, and they're going, hey, we get a weather break. It makes it so much more difficult when the teams that are coming from the Northeast get to go to Miami, and they're like, all right, man, we're comfortable. You guys have to go up and adjust the things. And I think that's something people – does that answer why the Dolphins haven't won a Super Bowl in 52 years? No, but it is something you have to consider a little bit because it's really a unique divisional makeup. Jacksonville has a little bit of it in the North, but, man, like you said, you're going to Buffalo in December. You're going to play the Jets mid to late December, and it's snowing. It's 20 degrees. You just left practice. It was 60 degrees down in South Florida, you know?
Well, and what Miami tries to do to flip that script is they put folks on the other side where the sun bakes them unmercifully for 1 o'clock games. And so what ends up happening
100%.
So they're saying, well, we don't get much of an advantage in the cold because cold is cold for everyone. But if you come to Miami, especially early in the year, and just watch how they put them on that side at 1 o'clock games, they are unmercifully being scorched over there. But to your point, you've already working in the heat. You've worked in the heat since July. So that's a thing as well, even though the Miami Heat can be incredibly oppressive. But I think when you think about Miami, I'd love to be able to say it's just the weather. They just have to represent a more physical way of playing football. And the AFC East represents that. When you think about the Patriots, you think about the Jets, you think about the Bills, it's always physical. Why is it always, Rick, that there's no finesse cold weather team? So it's always a physical. Cold weather teams are always physical.
Always.
There's very few, finesse Jets. There's no finesse Jets. You know what I mean? It's always, if you're cold, Detroit, finesse. Very few times do you think of finesse when you think of outside Chicago Bears. Finesse, you never think of that. For some reason, the warm weather teams seem to get that moniker a little bit. And so it's going to be real interesting to see how the East plays out. So I'm going to take you to the North now. You ready to go to the AFC North? Let's take a
I'm ready to go to the North. And this one's, I think you and I probably agree on the top team. But this pecking order is not as easy as people might think at first glance.
I might even have a surprise for you. Yeah, I think you're all over it.
Uh-oh.
So, not at the top. Not at the top. I am all in on the Baltimore Ravens.
Oh, okay.
I just feel like when I think about the Ravens, everything about them, you can automatically realize there's going to be at least 12 to 13 wins. I just feel that way about them. The way they're constructed, the way that they build their defense, their culture is just epic. They're not going to not be 12 wins. Lamar Jackson has redefined how the quarterback position looks and is okay to look. And I'll give the Ravens credit for what they did, drafting him out of Louisville and putting him in for Flacco and building a system around him that has proven to be great. He throws the ball better than you think, guys. He throws it better than you think. I got the Ravens at 1, but here's one for you. I actually think that Aaron Rodgers and the Pittsburgh Steelers are going to not only be the 2 seed, I think Aaron Rodgers is going to play well for them this year. The reason I say that is because for the first time in a long time, I feel like he is at a place that he recognizes that he can be part of the solution without having to be all of the solution. And so Mike Tomlin, the things I hear him talk about, he sounds like he is in step with Mike T. He talks about Mike T's the guy. I hear him saying things that just sound different. He's talking about this might be it for me. He's talking about leaning in. He's talked about spending time with him. Now, again, everybody's got a plan until you're 0-2, 0-3. Then what? You know what I mean? And I'm not saying they're going to be that. I just feel like if Pittsburgh's been able to be competitive with moderate quarterback play, Aaron Rodgers won't be moderate in quarterback play ever as long as he's playing.
No.
So if he can understand that he doesn't have to be 380, 35 or 45, he may very well be 19 of 30. You know what I mean? For 210, no interceptions, 2 TDs, be part of the solution, make some plays on third down, put guys in position, because Tomlin's going to take care of the culture. The defense is going to be the defense. What did we just talk about? A team from Pittsburgh, they're going to be physical. They're going to run the football. They're going to play a certain way. Mike Tomlin's going to be a winning season coach. I think the Steelers are going to be the two, largely because I think Aaron Rodgers is going to be able to elevate that side of the ball enough that can complement the way they want to run the ball and play defense. I've got them at the 2. I got the Bengals at the 3. Even though it was a preseason game, I watched the game against the Commanders, and I don't know if they, sometimes you don't want to show anything. Well, they didn't show anything on the defensive side when they played the Commanders. Jaden Daniels played the first possession, and they were just running through them like a sieve. It was embarrassing to watch. Now, I'm not going to hold a lot to that. Trey Henderson, they did end up signing, so they got him in the fold, and you certainly think that. I think they got Al Golden, right? So the defensive coordinator got Al. So maybe they just aren't showing their hand, and we've seen this before, Rick, that people want to keep stuff close to the vest. I've got them at the 3. I've got Cleveland at 4. Joe Flacco is going to do a solid job at quarterback. They've got a lot of. It sounds like to me they're just trying to. Not quite sure what they're trying to do. I'm going to attribute it to they're wanting to see with the picks they got. You got 2 picks next year, 2 first-round picks next year. You got Dylan Gabriel and Shedeur Sanders.
That's right.
It seems like to me that they're building for the long game. You got Deshaun Watson still sitting over here, right? He's still recovering.
Yeah.
So there's conversation around maybe he'll just show up here in October and say, I'm healed. And so now you got 4. It's just, NFL players, from the things I've read and heard, they're really rhythmic people. They don't want a lot of this. Give me my game plan. Question. Meetings. They want rhythm. They don't want chaos. And Shedeur Sanders is a good enough football player that they need to calm that noise down and get back to the business of playing football. I think they're kind of settling in on that now. They went from 5 quarterbacks, they're down to 3. You got Myles Garrett signed early. The defense has some pieces. I just don't know that they can break through the other 3 teams in the North. So for me, it's Ravens, Steelers, Bengals, and Browns in that order.
All right. Well, I'm going to disagree about one of the teams. As you got Baltimore winning it, I think, as long as Lamar there, as long as Derrick Henry looks revitalized and that defense is going to swarm, I think Zay Flowers could end up having a breakthrough year. He might be a top 3 receiver for all said and done this year. I got Cincinnati second. That's because of the Burrow, the Chase, the Higgins, the whole offensive. I like Chase Brown. I like the run. I like what they have on offense. I think getting the big signature there with Hendrickson was huge. And I think they're going to be okay in the long run. I don't think Aaron Rodgers is going to stay healthy. I think at 40, he's going to be 41, 42. I think he's going to take some shots. I think he's a guy that people don't like around the league. And I know coaches aren't going to say this, but they're going to make special effort to try to get some hits on that guy. And then I don't like what's behind him. So then I've got Cleveland, like you with Cleveland. Pieces everywhere, it feels like. Myles Garrett's arguably the best player defensively in the whole league. But
that's right.
I don't know, man. Joe Flacco is just go back to my whole Aaron Rodgers argument. I just think there's some brittleness there to the position. Then if that happens, we can have Gabriel and Sanders. Both did not look good in the preseason. Baltimore to me seems like they've gotten here now. And I never thought that would happen in this division with Pittsburgh there, Mike Tomlin. But I think they're here. And then you have everybody else they've kind of separated quite a bit. And Lamar is a big part of that. But that's my pecking order, just one team different as we move to the South. And kind of feels a lot like the North in a lot of ways.
It kind of does. And it feels like this is a rinse repeat kind of thing. I didn't pull my notes from last year's picks, but how do you not love DeMeco Ryans and the Houston Texans at the top of that division? I know a lot of folks are semi-bullish on Jacksonville. I'm not quite there yet because I want Trevor Lawrence to prove it to me. Now, they could, because there's years where we thought we were solid on one thing. We start to watch the team and, all of a sudden they change. But good luck getting through Houston, because you're talking about Houston. They've got all the pieces. And C.J. Stroud regressed a little bit last year. He had a little bit of a step back. But Rick, he was so good the first year. Even his regression last year, they still made the playoffs. And so, I still won a division. So that team, that football team, good luck knocking them off their perch. I think they're building something great there. Will Anderson, a lot of folks feel like he could be an all-pro and he could be defensive player of the year. I like Houston a lot. I've got the Titans at the 2, the second pick in that division. Listen, Cam Ward is going to do a nice job. Again, talk about a number 1 pick who you've heard nothing from. Oh, you've not, have you? I've heard more about Arch Manning than I heard about Cam Ward, number 1 pick in the NFL draft.
Correct.
He's just there. Everything you hear about him is he gets there early. He's about the grind. He's about the work. He's not about any foolishness. And he's kind of held people accountable. Even had a fight with one of the defensive players early. I mean, a number 1 pick quarterback rookie has a fight against a defensive lineman in a scrimmage. I'm for that. I am for that. So I'm looking forward to this.
Yeah.
I really do. Now, I respect his willingness to do it. I probably wouldn't do it a lot, but I respect his willingness to want to do it. He's standing up for his guys, and of course, his linemen were there to back him, and so I appreciate that. I think the Colts are in the 3 spot. I got them in the 3 spot. A lot of transition going on with the passing of Jim Irsay, and his daughters are now running the organization. Anthony Richardson and Daniel Jones, you've got that going on. This Anthony Richardson needs time. They keep wanting to give him time, and I appreciate that. Is he the guy? Is he not the guy? I think right now, it's one where they're just settling in on Daniel Jones, and the coaches, Steichen continues to talk about his needing to get better and that kind of thing. I think the agent came back and said, well, we got to make sure this is the place for us. Don't love that. I think if you're going to draft Anthony Richardson, as little as he played, you're either going to have to put him out there and see what you've got, or you need to get on from him, because this, I think, is year 3, if I'm not mistaken, of the Anthony Richardson project. And I really feel like you kind of, it feels like to me, when you signed Daniel Jones and you paid him what you paid him, it's like you almost knew then that he may not be where I wish he was. Sometimes you draft
No.
You know, that was a gamble out the box. I mean, he hadn't played, I don't think he had played a dozen starting games at Florida, give or take, right? So you had to be patient with him, and I think they're thinking that they are. And again, when you bring Daniel Jones in, you kind of made a statement, and so they're going to go with him. And so I've got them at 3rd, and I got the Jags at 4th right now. I'm not as convinced that the Colts won't be 4th this year. The Jaguars, again, Trevor Lawrence, we're waiting. Come on and do it. I mean, they made the playoffs that one year. The comeback against Justin Herbert is probably their watershed mark since he's been there. I think at this particular point, they've got new regime in town, and so we're going to look and see what they are. I got the Jags at 4. So Texans, Titans, Colts, and Jags.
It's funny. I have the exact same thing. I like Houston, obviously, I think has spread out. I think CJ is going to bounce back a little this year. You got to get more production out of the running back. You know, they're not going to have the guy they wanted back there, but I think they're going to be okay defensively. They're going to fly all over because of D'Amico Ryans. And I'm with you about Tennessee. Cam Ward's going to make a difference. Now, I know they just lost Spears for a while, but they got Tony Pollard as a heck of an insurance policy in that backfield. I like Tennessee. They got some young offensive weapons. I think Cam Ward's going to make that big of a difference. I really do. And I'm also with you. I got Indy 3rd. And Daniel Jones, they brought him in. They just got pieces around him. And they got to pick them 3rd because I just think so little of Jacksonville. And I think this guy they hired, Liam Cohen, whatever his name is, this comes across as a complete clown to me. And I just I just can't imagine that. Those locker room, I can't imagine them sitting around going, hey, we're going to run through a wall for that guy. Unfortunately, not to make excuses for Trevor Lawrence, but he hasn't really had the greatest coaches since he got to the league. He's had 3 very questionable coaches now, and I don't think he's not going to take a huge step. I just don't see it at all, and I don't like the running back situation. I like Houston, same thing, Houston, Tennessee, Indy, and Jacksonville is now we segue into the AFC West, where my beloved Broncos roam.
Where they roam. And last piece on the South is I am extremely interested in seeing the Travis Hunter experiment. I am excited to see what that's going to look like. And our own Bashal Tutin running the rock for Jacksonville too. So
he's going to have a good year. Yeah.
Listen, we knew that at Tech last year, though. That guy can run the football. He can run the football. He can absolutely play. So I'm looking forward to seeing Jacksonville do that. And I will say, Rick, I thought that the Doug Peterson hire was actually going to be all right hire. I thought that was going to be an okay hire because he's a championship coach. He's a quarterback kind of guy. I just don't ever know why that didn't click or connect there.
Never
really
happened. Yeah,
it just didn't. I really felt that was going to happen. So we'll keep Jacksonville there and prove us wrong. Move out of the cellar, right? Prove us wrong. We'll be all right with that.
Prove us wrong.
We don't.
Show us.
I don't mind
Show
being.
us.
I don't mind being wrong. I don't mind being wrong if you do it.
No, I don't ever mind being. Never mind being wrong. Yeah.
So now the AFC West, the best is the West. Is that what you're thinking? So here we go. Listen.
I think so, from top to bottom. Yeah.
They're pretty good. Got great coaches in this division. It's hard to say Andy Reid, Patrick Mahomes should not be favored to be at the top of the league. It's hard to say that, but we know these things, Rick. They don't last forever. Now, when does it not happen? We don't know. Patrick Mahomes, I think he's maybe 30. He is just settling in nice. He's not had the super stable of receivers to make this thing work as much as one would think, considering what he's been able to do. The Tyreek Hill run that he had in the early Super Bowl wins. And he does have arguably the greatest tight end that's ever played in Travis Kelce. So I don't want to sleep on those two, but it's not like he has guys like Bradshaw had Swan and Stallworth, or you're talking about Kurt Warner had Torrey Holt and those kind of guys and Oz Hakeem and all those guys. It's the greatest show on turf and those kind of things. But he's Patrick Mahomes and there's Andy Reid, and they're going to scheme you to death. And they are Brady and Belichick. They're attached. We're going to put them at the one, and we'll see if this is the scorched earth tour from that debacle with the Eagles last year. Here, a lot of those guys came back and more dialed in, a lot more focused, a lot more in shape. Travis Kelce in particular. Patrick Mahomes looks slimmer, got a new cut, third baby, all that stuff's done. They had the documentary, The Kingdom, was on ESPN. You really feel like they're going to come that way. Still doesn't mean they're going to win it, but there's a lot more focus, and they've got championship pedigree. I've got them at the one. No surprise to most. I've got them at the one. I got the Chargers at the two, and this is for one reason. I can't really explain it other than he can freaking coach. Jim Harbaugh can coach. Everywhere he's gone, he can coach. He's going to get Herbert right. He's going to get the team right. They're going to play physical. Now, they did lose their wonderful offensive tackle for the season, and they had to make some shifts around that. I just really have a lot of confidence in that guy back from the Stanford days. Of course, he had Andrew Luck, you know what I mean? But he absolutely can coach football. He got to Michigan. He got that flipped around. He's going to get them better. We all know what he did with the Niners. The guy puts Colin Kaepernick in the game instead of number one pick Alex Smith and just makes it work. So he's going to get that right. And, of course, they made the playoffs last year. I got them at 2. I got your Broncos at 3 because I feel the same way about Sean Payton. Sean Payton is the same kind of guy. He's going to get in there. He's going to get it right. He's already gotten it right. And Rick,
he has.
And at first, when they picked Bo Nix, I was watching live. He was ecstatic that they got Bo Nix, but it was like the quarterback taken that night. I thought he was trying to sell us a bill on that. You know what I mean? I thought he might have wanted someone else, and he was trying to make it seem like, oh, this is who we wanted the whole time. I think, Rick, it's exactly who he wanted the whole time.
Yeah.
Isn't that crazy? Right?
Yeah. He knew he wasn't going to get Jaden Daniel. He knew, but this was the guy he had second on his board.
And he ended up getting him, 5th or 6th, right? I think 6
we'll
quarterbacks went. Yeah. And so, and of course,
he went after McCarthy. Yeah.
And Bo Nix had like 60 college starts. So last year he walked into the league, not that he owned the league, but he wasn't overwhelmed. He was not overwhelmed. He made nice plays. The team built on that. And of course, Rick, with a quarterback, your defense gets excited too. I've got them at the 3. I got the Raiders at 4. I think the Raiders are going to be much improved. Pete Carroll's going to be okay. He's going to be fine with them. Getting Geno to come over was a big move from Seattle. You got Geno Smith over there. I think that he got Genty from Boise State's going to run the football. They feel really good about him. I think Pete Carroll's going to infuse some things with them. I think the Raiders, you put them at 4 because why don't you put them at 4? Who are you going to put them ahead of? It's really one of those.
It's division.
But I'll tell you what, every division game, anybody can win. If the Chiefs lose to the Raiders, are we going to be like, oh, the Chiefs lost to the Raiders? We're not going to say that because they beat them before anyway.
No.
They beat them before anyway.
Beat them in Kansas City last year. Yeah.
That's exactly right. And Rick, you've lived this division. Even in down years, don't you dare get sloppy and think you can slide into one of these places with your head all high. You get your head beat in. I mean, and now you're talking about Look at the coaches in this division. You got Jim Harbaugh, Andy Reid, Sean Payton, Pete Carroll. It's pretty good. It's pretty good company right there. It's either national championship coaches or Super Bowl winning coaches. I mean, so you're not going to trick anybody. It's not going to be smoke and mirrors here. They're going to have their teams prepared. So it's with a little bit of trepidation that I've got Chiefs, Chargers, Broncos, Raiders. But I'll tell you, it's a lot of a crapshoot. The only one I feel kind of okay on is I think the Chiefs will win it. And I don't have a ton of confidence in knowing that they're going to run away with it. I do think that they'll win it. I don't know that the Chiefs are going to come out of this thing with some 15-2 mark this year. I don't really believe that. I think the division games alone are going to be tough enough for them. And then the final piece to this, as I hand it back to you, is when you go to these Super Bowls all these years, 20 games, 19 games, there is a shelf life to this. I remember looking back at the old Steelers when they did those games in the 70s, and the Bills, the 4 straight in the 90s, Dallas, even when they won 3 out of 4. There is a precipitous cliff that you tend to, just because it's run its course, unless you can do a really good job of Bill Belichick in your roster, getting rid of guys before they're too old. You can bring some guys in, infuse some young talent, and keep the culture with core guys, but build around it. But if you stay long with guys that have been through it, there's only so many licks you can take in this thing. So I could understand if the Chiefs start to see a little bit of a drop. And how much longer does Andy Reid have? So, we keep hearing that from him. He loves to coach and that kind of thing. So so that's my 4: Chiefs, Chargers, Broncos, and Raiders.
And once again, folks, we do not get together and pre-plan these at all. We unveil them together when we start talking about it. And this is exactly how I have the division as well. And I almost bumped the Chargers ahead of Kansas City. That's how much I think of Harbaugh and just what he has there. I think they're building it he's always going to run the football. He's got a great offensive line. He's never going to get away from that. He's got a good defensive front. Justin Herbert, he's going to get it right under Harbaugh. He couldn't get it right before. He will now. I think the Chiefs slid back last year. I don't think Patrick Mahomes played very well. I think there's a lot of distractions with Kelsey and who shall never be named, the sideshow, all that. But the Chiefs get the edge because let's just say it the way it is. Chief fan, you may not like it. You can always get the advantageous advantages during a game. You're going to always get the benefit of the doubt on crucial calls. You have the whole run here. It's not a mistake, but because of that, I'm going to bump you up, but I wouldn't be surprised to see the Chargers knock them out this year. I think the Chiefs are on the downside defensively. I don't think they're going to be nearly as good. Xavier Worthy's fast. Can he be a consistent receiver in the league? They've got issues with Rice being suspended again. Kelsey's didn't seem to be there last year. The offensive line was very inconsistent. You get Patrick Mahomes running out from pocket. He's not the most athletic guy in the world, Patrick Mahomes, out of the pocket. He can make some throws, but we'll see. And they may be tired of hearing about all this. They may just say, you know what? People think we're done. They might come out and go 14-3. I don't know. But I do have the Chargers second. I just like Jim Harbaugh. He's made to be back in the NFL. He won his national title. Being part of this division really stinks if you're a Broncos fan.
It's tough.
I have a third. And I don't the sophomore jinx. I didn't like what I saw Bo Nix in the preseason. I think the teams now they know exactly what he's all about. How does he adjust back? I'm very interested to see how he adjusts back as a quarterback in this league. He's got Sean Payton, as you mentioned, which helps a lot. But let's see. Let's see what he can do. He didn't have a consistent running game last year. Javonte Williams was a complete bust. Maybe he regalvanates his career in Dallas. I don't know. But we'll see now. They signed the Charger, KJ Dobbins. They draft RJ Harvey. He needs help from those guys back there. I'm not sold on Bo. Give me one more year, then maybe I will be. I like the O-line. Defense is going to be terrific. I mean,
yes,
Vance Joseph has revitalizing a career in the place where he failed as a head coach. Does that ever happen? Does that ever happen where a guy just loses his job as a head coach? They bring him back. The next coach and he is just shined, and he is where he's at his best, and he's terrific. So they'll be good defensively. Patrick Surtain is maybe the best corner in the league. And with you on the Raiders, Pete Carroll's a placeholder for now to get those guys back. But Brock Bowers, who Denver was going to take the tight end if Bo would have been gone, Sean Payton admitted we loved him. He was our number 2 player up there.
Unbelievable.
They've got pieces. They'll be better. But this league, the worst team in the league may go 9-8.
Exactly right.
They're that good. It's that good from top to bottom. So that's my pick. I got Kansas City, Chargers, Broncos, and the Raiders. There you go.
So that wraps up the AFC. We'll get, once we get through these, we'll pick 1 through 7 for you and let you know who I have going to the playoffs, because even though we've gone 1 through 4, 7 teams make the playoffs, the division winners and 3 others.
I know, and I'm not there yet.
So we'll get back to that for you later on, but we've got these in place, so you guys will at least know how we rated these. So now we'll go to the other
Correct.
side. We'll go to the other side. We'll start with the East.
We'll do the. Yeah. You want to do that now? Or you want to wait till the next one? You want to wait till episode 2?
Which one to do? Which one to do? Episode 2? We'll do that episode 2. You want to do that episode 2?
Yeah. Why don't we save them for episode 2? I think the NFC deserves a long conversation.
All right, I'm with that. Yeah, we'll save that for episode 2.
There's a lot.
Yeah,
there's a lot in there that I think is going to turn upside down this year in that league.
Yeah, starting with that star.
My Super Bowl pick's going to surprise people. Yeah.
A little teaser right there. Yeah. So I love the fact that you said save it, because I have got so much I want to kind of speak to, particularly building on stuff that's happened last year. And the Parsons trade, I will tell you, did not change for me where I had the Packers or the Cowboys. Did not change it for me. Not that I don't think that the trade will have impact. I always thought the Packers were okay, and I didn't think the Cowboys were okay. So there's your teaser for the NFC from me right there. So we'll leave that be right there. So we'll hold off on that and let it marinate. You got it, bro.
Yeah, and I want to talk about that too. I'm not saying that Jerry Jones handled it right at all, because he didn't. And we'll get into it when we look at it. But Kenny Clark is an all-pro defensive tackle. And you got 2 number 1s. And I'm not saying Dallas is going to handle that at all well.
Yeah.
But I don't think that's a hard work. Everybody's ripping what he got in return. And I'm like, okay, the guy wasn't going to play for Dallas. That's pretty good considering you were up against the wall and the relationship was completely gone. It's not terrible. It wasn't terrible, I don't think.
It's not terrible. It's not terrible. Again, we'll save it, but what I will tease with on it is, if you wanted to do that, don't now say you wanted to stop the run. You should have just handled that. Michael Parsons is not going to make the run defense worse. You could have done it with him. So I think him saying that could have been handled through draft and trades along with Parsons. I think this had a lot to do with the fact that they kind of got personal. And at that particular point, now stopping the run became the most important thing, because he never mentioned that before. So that's fine. That's fine. I mean, hey, I got Michael Parsons on the team. We can't stop the run. You almost made it like he was the reason you couldn't stop the run. Michael Parsons is never worth.
He couldn't. Yeah, right.
So I just didn't buy that part of it. You can say we would have loved to have had him, but we had other issues too. Not that he was part of that, but now we've addressed one other thing. Well, I hope you can get to the quarterback now. So I mean, you gave up one thing. So I hope you got a pass rush, because he was that. And so I think there's more to this other than the positioning of football players. I mean, because Jerry signed other guys. I mean, yesterday he signed Deron Bland, $92 million.
Yeah, an unbelievable deal for a mid CB. Yeah.
Deron Bland. So again,
I know.
Again, I'm just saying. So there you go.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. Well, we'll tackle all that when we look at the NFC in episode number 2. And this has been you realize this has gone on for an hour? Does it feel like it? I told you, it doesn't.
Well, we talked about this. I see the clock in the upper left. I've only looked at it like 3 times. And as soon as you mentioned that, I start to go, oh, we have run the full hour. And we just got through one league, a little bit of college and one league. And you said it would fly. And it has been. It's been great. It's been good. And as a whole, we got a lot more, though. We got to give these listeners and viewers. We got a lot more to do. We're going to have a lot more fun with it. This is just episode 1. And the first is the worst. That's right. And it's been pretty good. It'll never be as bad as this one.
That's right,
guys. Y'all just stay tuned. We need you. And by the way, to quote you, like and subscribe this.
Yes.
We need it 1 million times over. And so please support us in our venture, man. And we're going to kind of get this thing going. And we appreciate you all listening. And we got a lot more NFL. I got notes for days. So
I know you do. I know you do.
We're gonna get at it, and we look forward to seeing how this thing all plays out. So absolutely. 1 hour. That went quick.
Absolutely. And then when we finish up episode 2, we got to do the picks, right? Unless you want to, I guess we could, I didn't think about that. We got the picks to do, don't we? And unless you're incorporating Thursday and Friday. Are you incorporating Thursday and Friday in our picks?
Yes. We can,
All right. Well, maybe we can reconvene on a day, maybe Wednesday. How about that?
We'll get it.
Episode
We'll get
2?
it. We'll get the picks up before the first game. That's what we'll do. We'll get the picks up before the first game. We got to do that. Got to find a way to do that. Even if if it's a blurb, even if it's a quick one, we're gonna get the picks up for everybody so we can maintain a level of credibility with this program. And we'll have those ready to go for you because you guys got to have them before the thing launches. Got to do it. Got to do it.
Absolutely. Got to have it. Folks, it's Sports and More with David Smith and me, Rick Watson. Thanks for watching. We'll have a lot more. Trust me, sports and more, like David said, coming up. There's going to be some days we're going to come on. He'll mention like a music or a movie reference, and then you'll look up an hour later. That's all we've talked about. But that's what's fun about this. We can do whatever we want. That's what we can do. That's what we do.
Looking forward to it. Thank you, brother. I appreciate it, man. Look forward to it.
Right.
Up next, guys,
thank you, man.
Picks. So y'all stay tuned. Thanks, Rick.
All right, brother. Good to see you, man. Thanks, everybody, for watching. It's been Sports and More here with Dave and Rick. Stay tuned for episode 2 before the start of the NFL season. So